Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready.
My name is Fred Stewart. I'm the Student Publications Advisor here, and I'm just going to keep mine very basic and give you a chance to answer or to ask any questions that you may want. The student publications on this campus, I'm in my 26th year here, and our student publications have consistently gone down. We started off with a weekly newspaper that came out 13 times a semester, plus during the summer. Plus we had a magazine that came out twice per semester in the fall and the spring. Now we are down to a newspaper that comes out 4 times per semester, no magazine, no yearbook. So things have changed. What the publications are designed to do, the newspaper is not only an information tool for the university. Not everyone, online and Twitter and so forth is very popular, but not everyone does that. On college campuses around the country and around the state, you can still walk by and pick up a campus paper, see what's going on. It's timely, you've got pictures, it's a recorder of history, it's good for scrapbooks and so forth like that. We're not able to do that much anymore. We've had to completely change the way we operate our publications. We've had to completely change the way our students are trained. We've had to completely change the way that we cover things. We can't cover things on a timely, daily basis like we used to with the newspaper. We can put them online, but sometimes that's difficult because now our students, a lot of our students, are no longer spending the amount of time in the newsroom with student publications that they used to, because now they have to get a job, they have to work extra hours, they're doing other activities. And so the publications have, in a sense, kind of gone to kind of a second banana. We've also seen changes across the state in publications with yearbooks. At one time, about 8 to 10 years ago, yearbooks started kind of dwindling away. Now they're starting to come back on a lot of campuses around the state. Magazines are coming back. The printed versions that you actually pick up and read are coming back across campuses around the state. And some newspapers that are our size, institutions our size, they're still very visible on campus. The larger publications, the larger schools, they're going a lot more online than what they are printed. But the smaller schools, they're still very much alive in the printed version. For our students, we're training them to go into what's called community journalism, weekly newspapers, small dailies, medium-sized dailies. A lot of them have goals of going to the Dallas Morning News, but that's not going to happen. Not the way the Dallas Morning News is changing. The editors of the Morning News have told us we're not going to talk to you until you've had at least 10 years of experience, and so forth. On the other hand, our editors around Northeast Texas and Southern Oklahoma who have weekly newspapers and small dailies have said, we're looking for people. I need people. I want to hire people. And what's happening is a lot of these editors who are in hiring positions in Northeast Texas and Southern Oklahoma are our graduates. So what we have been told, and what I have been told, is if we have some openings, we're going to come to you because we know what the students have gone through. They've worked on a weekly publication, they've met those deadlines, they've gone to those meetings and so forth and so on. Well, now those students are not doing that because we're not able to do the publications. So we're not training our students really to go immediately into the Dallas Morning News. We're training our students to go to the Greenville Herald-Banner, the Sulphur Springs paper, the Paris News, the Norman, Oklahoma Transcript, papers like that, where they can work for 4 or 5 years and then move up. So that's kind of our focus. And also because we've had to cut back on our publications, it's put a limit on our students as far as what they're able to show. When they walk in to talk to an editor for a job, the first thing that editor wants to know is, let me see your clipbook. Clipbook is a portfolio of things that they have had published. So we haven't been able to do that. Online publications, online items is fine. They can make photocopies of that, but it doesn't show how the students can select news, how the students can get their news, how the students design pages, how the students play the news and photos and so on and so on. So that has been the biggest problem that we've faced for this year is, and over the years, our budget and student services fees is what we rely on. We don't do advertising. We have difficulty getting advertising. We have very much tried to get into the local market, but the local market is so tied up with athletics and other publications and other things. We don't have the access to national advertising because we don't have the publication schedule. We come out 4 times a semester, 700 issues. That's not going to attract advertisers. When we were coming out 12 times a semester and printing 3,000 copies, that attracted national advertisers. And so we've lost that. So we've made some changes. Our student services fees have become very important. It has become pretty much our sole financial support. We have been able to get some support from the journalism endowment, but not that much. So that's why it's important for, if this campus wants a means of student communication, then basically the East Texan is it. The students, from surveys that we've done and so forth, the students on our campus and around our region, they read the Texan. Even when they graduate, they'll go online, they'll read it. When we print it, we have 2 online versions of the Texan. We have the traditional online, and then we have a site called isssu.com, and that's where we'll take the physical printed version of the East Texan and publish it on that site. So our alums and so forth can read the online version and they can look at the printed version. And so that has been a challenge for us. And our student services fees budget has been consistently reduced year after year after year after year after year. And so now it's getting down to the point where we're kind of at bare minimums. The money that we received for this academic year, there's still some left over because of some changes. We were scheduled, or we planned on getting some new equipment, but that fell through, so we didn't get the new equipment. We're going through some organizational changes within the department. We were going to do some things. That's now on hold. So some of the things that we were wanting to do, we haven't been able to do yet. So we've got some money left over, and we'll be able to, hopefully we'll be able to use that to start fall semester. We had been able to do special sections, special editions. When we won the national championship, came out with a special edition, not to the extent that we would have liked to, but that was a primary opportunity to do that. So that's kind of where we are. The way that we use the money, the way that I use the money is to pay for printing. I pay our editors a small salary, 10 hours a week, minimum wage. They'll work about 18 to 20 to sometimes 25 or 30 hours a week. I've had some students that put in as many hours in the newsroom as they have on a regular job and get paid for 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week. Supplies, update of equipment, update of software. We have to kind of, in the past, we've been able to kind of get in line within our department and so forth for updates in software and updates in computers. We're still trying to update some camera equipment, which we're using little picture picks or something like that, little small cameras. We're not using the 35 millimeter unless the student owns it. So we're trying to update some things. It's slow, it's gradual. And the aggravating thing about that is when main event rolls around and we have visitors come in from high schools and from community colleges and take them into the newsroom, let them see our facilities, let them see what we do. I have heard many times, well, you know, we do more than this at our high school. Or we have better facilities than this at our high school, or our community college. So we do with what we do very well, I think, with what we have, but we're still not doing what we could do. So again, that's why it's important for the student services fees, because I feel like our operations, the student publications, actually serves the entire campus, the alumni, the community. We have been distributing publications in the community. We don't do that anymore because we don't print enough. We have been involved with Commerce High School last year with an Aspire program. We don't do that anymore because we don't have the students, we don't have the facilities, we don't have the opportunities to print the publications as often as we wanted to. So there have been some changes that we've had to do. This academic year has been the hardest since I've been here. And there's been so many changes, so many reductions, so many steps taken backwards that it's been a challenge. Questions?
So your request is $25,000. Is that, how, in terms of that request, how have you accounted for the money you think you're gonna have left over from this year? Can you talk about some money you left that?
The money that I'm going to have left over this year, I've looked at how much we've had to pay for printing. We pay for our printing an academic year in advance. So we get the bids from our printer, so we can kind of figure with that, plan on what we have to do. We can look at our software that we need updated, and look at our computers that we need updated. I can also look at how much money is available and start planning on how many positions I can hire and how many hours I can have. So when I go to the editors, I can tell the editors, okay, you have a total of X number of hours for the semester or for the week. You decide who gets what and so forth. So it's some long-range planning. I'm not sure what we're going to have left over this year, but the hope is that it will be enough to kind of at least pay for a semester of printing and kind of get everybody started. We also use the money to take our students to the Texas Intercollegiate Press Association, which is our state organization, and that organization is probably, well, it's not probably, that organization is a national caliber organization with national caliber convention. I'm very prejudiced to that because I'm the executive director of it. And I know what goes on in the convention because I put them on. And so when we have, on the state level, when we can bring in nationally renowned journalists to do workshops, our students get a lot out of it. When we have had the funding, I've been able to take more students. Last year, I took 24 students. The year before that, I took 22. Just this past convention, I took 12. So again, it kind of backs things off a little bit. And our students, at that convention, we have what's called on-site competitions. And that's where everybody who is there, each school can enter one student and they compete against each other in covering actual news stories, actual photo stories and things like that. And last year, our students, only one school received more points than we did in live competition. They beat us by 2 points. And so, like I said, I've said many times I put my students up against anybody.
Is there a need, and you're the expert at it, is there a need for additional funding to get more students at conferences and so forth? Or is there a need to print more copies of the East Texan? The reason I ask that is because it seems like every time I turn the television on, they're advertising for the New York Times or the Washington Post to read it online. Even with the Greenville paper here, the Commerce Journal, read those things online. The funding is needed for what?
The funding is needed for our students and the publications that we are training them to go into.
Sure.
Is printed publications.
Gotcha.
A press run, and some salaries to pay these students a little bit of money so they can spend the time there.
Gotcha. Okay.
With the conferences and the conventions, we can get them to the state conventions. I haven't taken students to a national convention in probably 15, 16 years. I'm okay with that because our state convention is just as high caliber. And the more we can take to our state convention, the better.
Anybody else?
Do we ever, is there a possibility of selling ads within the university, like the president's office or housing or,
We have looked at some things, and what we're doing now with some of the, we've talked to student groups about, student groups and organizations are always looking for fundraisers, ways to make some money. And so we have, in the past, we've talked to student groups and said, okay, if you would be our advertising agency and sell these ads to, you know, anywhere, on campus, off campus, Sulphur Springs, wherever, then once that money is collected, then we'll pay your group, you know, 25% of it, or we'll split it 50-50 with you. We haven't had any groups take us on that yet. And we haven't had any assistance with that yet. We will get an occasional ad, but because we're not publishing often enough, like we didn't have a homecoming ad because it was too late, and so forth. So we have had ads on campus, but it's been timeliness. They have something coming up within a couple of weeks that they can run an ad, and then that issue comes out. But as sporadic as we've been the last few years, it's been difficult. The one thing that we did do, just one other thing, since it's advertising, the blue kiosks on campus, we have 5 of those. We've had those now for probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years, maybe close to 10 years. At the time, there were only 3 schools in the state of Texas that had those, and we were one of them. And that's from a national company. We are supposed to get, we will get advertising money from those kiosks if we reach a certain distribution point per month. Does that make sense? Because if you notice the ads that are on those kiosks, we can have one local ad per on each kiosk. So we have one that says read East Texan, we have one that says something else. But those others are national ads that are sold. And so there's someone that will come on campus and will service them and put the ads in and so forth. But over the past couple of years, I think we've made $225 off of them, because we haven't had the distribution totals and the publication totals.
if somebody did want to run an ad, would they have to develop it themselves, or could they give you the information and y'all put it?
Either way, since we don't have an advertising program, it would be our East Texan students that were doing it. And so when we've had local advertisers in the past, what we've asked them to do is, do you have an idea? And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, we have an idea, and they'll sketch something out. Or they may have someone on staff, or they may use Latsons or someone like that to do it, and that's fine.